Hey, Village Bible Church small group leaders. This video is for the week of October 22nd. We're going to be going through lesson number 8 in our unfinished, and I hope the series is going well for you. Just a quick reminder, please go to villagebible.org/small groups and log your attendance there. Appreciate it. It's going to take a couple of minutes, but if you want to designate someone in your group to do it, wonderful. Maybe this could be your first time recording attendance. That would be great if you could do it. We're shooting for all groups to record attendance. The best we've seen so far has been 50% reporting. So let's do better than that. And that's just an encouragement, not a discouragement, but an encouragement to get on there, record your attendance, take a few minutes to do it. Write out a couple of sentences of how things are going, how I can be praying for you, and I hope to talk to you soon. So we're in lesson 8, dealing with persecution. Peter and John have come back from being thrown into prison for healing the crippled man, and they come back in chapter 4, and they speak, verse 23 through 31, to the church. 5,000 strong, about what God has done, what had happened to them. They had been persecuted, and what was the response of the church at that time? And that's what we're dealing with here in lesson number 8. So let me share with you what I'm planning on doing, and you can do it differently, of course. We have the freedom to do that as you know your group and work with your group. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to question number 1, the opening question. Describe a time when you got picked on when you were younger. And remember, these questions are icebreakers, but they're also designed to help you to get to know, usually on a kind of a funny basis, get to know somebody in your group, get to know your group, for your group to get to know one another. At this point in my groups, we don't really need an icebreaker, but these questions serve to shed light into a person's background, into a person's history, where they're coming from. They're good to do that. And then we'll read the text, and then we'll quickly go through the explore questions. Now, as you look at the lesson, there are some just main sections that I'm going to take probably a question or two from each of these 4 sections. So I'm going to break up the 20 questions into these 4 sections. Questions 6 through 10 has to do with family and friends and relationships that we have with one another, and why we have relationships with one another in the church, and how do we encourage one another. The disciples, Peter and John, came back to the church, and they shared the news with them. And why was this important? And what does it mean to have people who you care for and are in community with, and you're doing life with one another? What does it mean to have a small group where you guys are sharing with one another? Then questions 11 through 13 has to do with persecution. The reality is, just as the early church was persecuted, we also will be persecuted. What is then our response to that? The third section, questions 14 through 18. Is our response prayer? Is it anxiety? Is it faithfulness? Lots of our people are dealing with anxiety. That's a reality. Lots of people in our world are on pills for anxiety. That's a reality. Lots of people are on pills for anxiety at Village Bible Church. So what is our response as Christians to anxiety? And I'm not bringing up the pill question to say that's a road that you need to go down and explore. Probably not. It might come up. But the greater question is, how does prayer help us in dealing with anxiety over these issues? And so then lastly, 19 and 20 have to do with reflections on being Christ's witnesses. The disciples, the early church, prayed for boldness. They prayed for their testimony to go forth in power with miracles, so that they could be Jesus' witnesses. And so the question is, how are we being witnesses? How are we being strengthened in our faith to be God's people, to be light in a dark place, to be salt, to be a preservative of the good? So the last part then, take time, ask God to stretch you in your witness. Ask Him to fill you with His power and show you how you can take His light to a lost world. And I would pray along those ends. This might be a week where I'm going to take prayer requests in the beginning, get updated on where people are at, and then take prayer requests. And then at the end, break down and say, here, we're going to spend the prayer time, not with our supplications, but rather with our big picture prayers for God to move, for God to move and give us boldness, for God to enlarge our ministries as individuals, as a church, to thank God for his provision and ask him to do more, those big picture type prayers. So that's my plan for this week, and hope it works for you, and I hope it works for you to report that and record it. Love to hear how things are going. So have a great week, October 22nd, and we'll talk to you soon.